Good morning, everyone. Let us begin our trigger session discussion. I will be the chairperson for today. First, let us confirm our role. Elisa will act as a scriber and record the important point discussed during this session. Before we move to the main discussion, based on the article provided, we identify several difficult terms. We discuss this term together and clarify meaning with explanation to ensure everyone has clear understanding of the topic. Let us begin with the Elvina to explain the difficult term.
So for the first difficult term is contaminated. The meaning of the word is polluted or made dirty, unsafe by harmful substances. Next is threatening. Threatening is dangerous or likely to cause harm. Next is copper, a reddish brown metal used for wires, pipes, and coin.
Okay, thank you, Elvina. Let's invite Elisa to explain the difficult term.
Next, for the marine habitats, there are natural places in the ocean where the marine plants and animals live, such as coral reef, mangrove, and seagrass beds. Second, environmental pollutants are substances like chemical or waste that harm the air, water, or soil and negatively affect living organisms. And the food chains show who eats whom in nature, transferring energy from plants to small animals and then to larger animals. Thank you.
Okay, next I will invite Sarudani to explain the term. Sarudani, buka mic.
Meaning of difficult term of offspring is something surprisingly insightful. Second, crustacean. Meaning of crustacean is large class of mostly aquatic manipulate arthropods that have a sittiness. And third, heavy metal. The meaning of heavy metal is relatively high density or of high relative atomic weight. That's it.
I will talk about the difficult term for stormwater runoff. Stormwater runoff is precipitation that fall over land surface becomes crossing pollution from the developed areas. Next term is bioaccumulate. Accumulate is build up of chemical and heavy metal in an organism happening when the rate of intake is faster than the rate of removal. Next one is the algae. Algae bed is a significant marine or freshwater habitat dominated by dense growth of algae. Next, I will invite Yvonne to explain the difficult term.
The next one is abundance. Abundance is quantity, number, or total population of something. And grazing. Grazing is feeding on plants or algae by eating, scraping, consuming parts of them, or the practice of eating small amounts of food many times. Next, amphipods. Amphipods is small shrimp-like crustaceans with flattened bodies found in ocean, river, lakes, and even beaches. They often feed on algae or decaying material and serve as an important source for
Next, I will talk about the difficult term is marine habitat. Marine habitat is natural place in the ocean where the marine plant and animal live. And next difficult term is environmental pollutant. It is sometimes like chemical or waste that harm the air, water, or soil affecting living things. Next difficult term is food chain. Food chain source who eats worm in the nature, moving energy from plant to small animal, then to the bigger animal. Next, will proceed to the villa table. Villa table approach. I will invite each school member to share their bad ideas, learning issue, learning outcome, and action plan. First, I will invite Elvina to explain the fact.
So for the first fact is, Sydney Harbour seaweeds have the world's highest level of copper and lead contamination. So for the idea, high level of these metals may have accumulated over a long period due to urban or industrial activities. Learning issue is what are the specific chemical properties of copper and lead that make them highly toxic to marine life. So for the action plan, copper and lead toxicity is driven by free metal ions binding to respiratory surface as biological ligands, blocking essential ion uptake and causing systemic failure. For the second fact is, small animals feed on these contaminated seaweeds. For the idea, the toxins are transferred from the seaweed to the animals through ingestion. For learning issue, how does the consumption of contaminated seaweeds affect the health and survival of primary consumer? For action plan, consuming seaweeds contaminated with copper and lead causes metals to bioaccumulate, disrupting metabolic enzymes and mimicking minerals like calcium to trigger neurotoxicity, cell malformation, and death. For the last fact is contaminated seaweeds are threatening the small animals. For idea, the contamination might be causing death, reduced reproduction, or illness in the animal population. For learning outcome, what are the specific physiological traits faced by these animals? For action plan, physiological traits include metabolic arrest from enzyme inhibition, membrane and DNA damage via oxidative stress, and neurobehavioral dysfunction, preventing food detection or predator escape. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Next, I will invite Elisa to explain the fact.
So for the second fact, small crustaceans feed on contaminated seaweed. Many of their offspring fail to survive, with mortality rate reaching as high as 75%. And then for the ideas, toxic heavy metals in contaminated seaweed may interfere with the reproductive system of small crustaceans. And for the learning issue, how do heavy metals such as copper and lead affect the reproduction of small crustaceans? And for the action plan, study how copper and lead pollution impact the reproduction of small crustaceans. And then for the next facts that I got from the paragraph 7, animal higher up the food chain may be indirectly and affected by pollutions. For the idea, pollution can travel up the food chain from the small organisms to bigger animals. Learning issue, how does pollution spread through the food chains? For the action plans, propose strategy to reduce pollution and protect higher level species. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next, I will invite Yvonne to explain the fact.
So these are information again from paragraph 4. For facts, Sydney Harbour have heavy metals such as copper, lead, and zinc enter the water mainly from human activities like runoff, industry, and boats. Seaweeds are able to bioaccumulate these metals inside the tissues, which is why scientists use them as natural indicator of pollution. So from these facts, we can start to see some important ideas. So most of the pollution in the harbor comes from human activities. Since seaweeds can absorb metal, they can be used as natural indicator of pollution. This method is actually cheaper and easier compared to using machines, which makes it a practical way to track. However, this idea also raise some questions we still have to explore. So for learning issue, for example, which source contributes the most metals to the harbor? How exactly seaweeds store this metal inside their tissue? And do different seaweed species absorb metals differently? These are important issue to investigate further. To address this learning issue, there are several actions we can take. First, we can look for studies that compare metal levels from different pollution sources. Historically, industries around Sydney Harbour release a large amount of copper and lead that remain locked in demand, making industrial area pollution hotspot, while today rainwater runoff carries zinc and lead from roads and urban areas. Next, we also need to research how seaweed store metals. They absorb them from seawater as they grow, and their cell walls contain negatively charged sulfated polysaccharides that attract charged metals, iron, like copper, zinc, and even rare elements. Finally, we should compare different seaweed species because not all absorb metals the same way. Brown seaweeds usually absorb more, which makes them especially useful for monitoring pollution. That's it from me.
Okay, thank you. Next, I will invite Shah Hurudani to explain the fact.
From paragraph 5, the paragraph 5 is high concentration of copper in one seaweed species, which is Padina crassa, may associated with a low abundance of grazing amphipods. For ideas, chemical composition of seaweed undergoes marked variation in changing environments, the season, the habitats, and depth at which they grow. It is a known fact that accumulation of metal in seaweed is related to their concentration in water, and it has been observed that it's also influenced by changing season. For learning outcome, how copper can decrease effectiveness of defenses by preventing snails from preferentially consuming non-grass seaweed. For action plan, we should identify and reduce or eliminate the copper sources from preferentially consuming non-grass seaweed because copper can decrease effectiveness. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Now I will give my fact. The fact we can learn from the paragraph for the donor is the heavy metal originate primarily from stormwater runoff, industrial discharge, and motorized water pollution in the harbor. Next, for the idea is the high level of heavy metal accumulate in seaweeds are toxic to small grazing customers, leading to reduced survival and abundance, which can disrupt the marine food web and the ecosystem balance. Next, for the learning outcome is the how to heavy metal interferes with biological processes like growth, reproduction, and cellular metabolism. And for the action plan, I believe we can study how heavy metal interferes with growth, reproduction, and metabolism of marine organisms. And for our conclusion, Thank you for everyone for the contribution.
For the I also have the fact for paragraph 3.
Okay.
So for the fact for paragraph 3 is seaweed samples were taken from 10 bays within the harbor. For the ideas, proximity to the ocean may influence the concentration level due to tidal flushing. For the learning issue, does the distance from the harbor entrance correlate with lower or higher metals concentrations? For the action, inland metal concentration increased as distance from Sydney had grown because reduced tidal flushing farther from the ocean entrance fell to the lake accumulated pollutant with clean seawater. For the next, second fact is Willow Bays, Bull's Head Bay, and Frascata Bay have the highest contamination. This for the idea is these specific bays likely have slower water circulation or are closer to all industrial drainage points. For the learning issue, what are the specific historical or geographical features of these 3 bays that lead to extreme contamination? For the action, centuries of unregulated industry combined with shallow, slow energy geography effectively trap urban pollutant in this bay by preventing tidal flushing. For the last fact in paragraph 3 is the study focused on a specific species of brown seaweed. For the idea, brown seaweed might be more efficient at absorbing zinc and lead compared to green or red seaweed. For the learning outcome, why is brown seaweed used as a bioindicator for heavy metal monitoring in marine studies? For learning for the action plan is as essential biological sponge, brown seaweed use alginate-rich cell wall to continuously accumulate bioavailable heavy metal, providing a localized pollution history that instantaneous water samples miss. So that's for paragraph 3. And also we have for last paragraph, like Arisa,
Already.
the fact for last paragraph.
Already said that.
Okay. That's all.
Did anyone have any add-on? If not, we can end our discussion for today. Thank you everyone for the contribution.
Thank you. Thank you.